those hard-hitting questions. In the meantime, I'm gonna join you, and I will be selling my wares, the CDs. So shake me down. Hello, Darren.
First off, Sacramento, thank you very much for introducing me to Stephanie over here, who's joined us on this trip. So thank you guys.
Wow, here's for everyone.
Do you guys like the movie? Guys, so first off, I can't see shit out here. I just see a black hole. So we're gonna do a Q&A. If you have a question, try to raise your hand and maybe I'll see you. Maybe we can bring the house. I don't know how to bring the house lights up. Yeah. All right, there we go. There we go. All right, so let's start. Spooky.
You have a question here? Yeah, go ahead. So, is there any connection plot-wise between Repo and the Devil's Carnival?
No, there's not. The question was, is there any connection plot-wise between Repo and the Devil's Carnival? Outside of Terrence and I just wanting to do another fucking musical. Basically, I'm going to answer the question now before it gets inevitably asked, which seems to be what everyone asks us, is there going to be a Repo 2 or a prequel? I relate it to this night after night. It's the equivalent of your first car. You get a car, you drive it all throughout high school, and you get to college and you sell it and get another car. And then you can't go back 10 years later to the person who now bought your first car and say, hey, can I drive that again? Terrence and I don't own Repo, as much as I think we both love to do a prequel or a sequel. It's not ours. And so instead of waiting and asking and begging to have it back, we said, fuck it, let's just make a new one. So, there you go. Preach. Yes.
Okay, so was I right and I spotted Captain Maggots and Contessa?
Yes.
Project. How was it?
Oh. I just thought it was strange that I was asked to be a part of something like this, and Captain Maggots and Contessa, who are professional clowns who went to clown school, weren't. So I just thought it would be only right to introduce them, and after Darren developed a serious crush on Captain Maggots, there really wasn't anything. Don't worry, we all...
Well, Terrence has a crush on Contessa.
Yeah, I know, I was gonna not embarrass. I know. We all do.
Well, how I met Emily, which was crazy, is I was on the web and she had a banner ad. It was from one of her tours, and I was like, damn, this girl's hot. And I clicked on it and it took me to a YouTube page, and I seriously spent hours and hours and hours, like cyber stalking hours, watching every one of her clips. Who hasn't, right? What the best is that how I got Alexa Vega in Repo was I started Facebooking her obsessively until she finally contacted me and said, stop. So Emily was a little worse than that, because at this point there's now Twitter, there's Facebook, and her message board, and I started just like I was obsessed. Every 5 minutes I'd send a new email, and finally her tour manager said, seriously, you're creeping us out, go away. And I was like, but I'm a director, be in my movie.
Oh, okay.
And then eventually, Emily, I think, was about to put a restraining order against me, and I was like, just watch Repo, and I get a phone call from her and the girls in the back of the bus saying they just watched Repo and they all were in. And so that's how we met the lovely Emily Otter.
Can I add one quick thing to that, which is that the first thing that Darren actually sent me was a YouTube video of all of you doing the roadshow and the Shadowcast for that before I even watched Repo. And I was already in by that point, because I realized, like, if that was what was able to happen for an amazing, unique project like that, then clearly that was something I related to and wanted to be a part of. So it was actually much more you than Darren or Repo. So thank you. I trusted you. You did me well. Thank you.
What was your inspiration for this movie?
Do you want to start it?
Sure. Carnival dark rides, and yeah. You know, you guys, I'm sure you guys live in California. You've all been to Disneyland, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember America Sings.
Yeah!
There was like basically an eagle, and they did all these American folk songs. And the eagle always came back to Yankee Doodle Dandy. And Joe and I would joke about, we're going to do that, but Lucifer is basically going to be the eagle. And at the time, we were toying with the song It Ain't Necessarily So from Porgy and Bess. And then got away from the folk songs and standards and kept the folk element of Aesop's Fables, but went with entirely original music. So,
How many artists do we have in there tonight? Costumers, writers, filmmakers, raise your hand. I think that another huge inspiration was, I've been extremely lucky to be involved in some great movies, to do the Saw films and have a kind of huge support system. But after Saw ended, Repo was kind of forgotten about. It was put in a couple of theaters. And as an artist, when you work years and years and years, 10 years of your life on something, and to have it basically only put into 2 theaters or 3 theaters, and that's the fate of your art, it kind of ignites something inside of you. And to me, it was a rage, and that rage turned to passion. And I called Terrence up right after that, and I said, "Screw it, we're going to do it again. We're going to do it bigger. We're going to do it better. We're going to own and control it." And so Terrence and I set off on this journey with Joe, and then eventually bringing in Emily and all the other people that are here, to basically say, we're not trying to circumvent the system or move around it. We're just saying there's alternative paths to it. You don't have to walk in and give everyone a script and say, here's the movie I want to make, and wait and wait and wait as it goes through development hell. In the case of this, we just decided to say, we liked what we were doing, we knew that we had the fan base of you guys, and we said, screw it, let's go create art and bring it to the fans. I was reading an article today on the van ride. We had a 15-hour van ride, or 14-hour, some ridiculous van ride. And I was reading an article on David Bowie, and he talked about. He said his first few gigs were really awkward, and he said he had these huge things, and he played them, and he'd get booed off stage, and he'd be laughed at. And he said that he was really concerned until he said, "Fuck it! Instead of going to their audience, I'm going to go make my own audience." And kind of I think what happened with Repo is we found you guys and you guys found us, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So thank you guys so much for continuing to come out and support us.
Well, I think I win the prize in this one. It was 4 hours in and 1 hour out. And as someone who generally is always busy, I'm a workaholic, so I tend to rarely have moments of just calm. So to be forced to have no choice, basically, to sit in a chair for that amount of time and do nothing while other people applied their art to me was an exercise in surrender. But once I kind of gave into it and realized, fuck yeah, I'm playing Lucifer, it was all nice. I hope you guys like the way it looked.
Oh, album 666. Terrence, you want to answer that?
I have it.
For those that don't know, and I usually do this at the end of the night, but I'm going to do it right now. How we're financing this thing, because this whole thing is being done extremely independently, is we're doing it through soundtracks and posters. If you guys liked what you did tonight, we did tonight. If you guys like the music, I encourage you, please, when you leave here tonight, pick up an album. We signed and numbered 5,000 albums that are numbered and signed by Terrence and myself. And if you bring it up to us, I'm sure Emily and Joe would be happy to sign it as well. Those are how we're actually being able to do this right now, and hopefully you guys like what you saw, because the idea behind this whole thing is a series, not just one, but multiple of these things. You guys watched episode 1. Terrence has written episode 2. We're writing on episode 3.
It's Tales from the Crypt meets the anti-fucking Glee.
Obviously, is that we shot this thing in 7 days. The hope is that we do find that partner that gets what we're doing, and we can have a little bit more time and keep making these things over and over. Like 2 weeks. We had 2 weeks. So it's not that much we're asking for. Just 2 weeks of homework. And the thing, I'm going to give you something else which is kind of cool, and I'm going to let Joe talk about this for a second. Guys, first off, Joe Bashar, the music producer on this and Repo. And I'm sure we have some horror fans in the audience. Mr. Demon from Insidious, the Red Demon in Insidious. We recorded, when we did Repo, we did the album for Repo, we had months to record the music. We would have, for example, Sarah Brightman had a week to lay down her lyrics. Anthony had 7 days to put his stuff down. When we did the album for this, because we're working obviously on a constrained time and budget, we did everything in 1 day. Now it was months and months of preparation, but the actual recording, we had the session players come in, was 1 day. Joe, do you want to talk to the difference about how we actually did this versus Repo?
Well, Repo we had, like Darren was just saying, we had a whole lot more time. So we had months. We were a whole lot for months working on Repo. With this, it was about a week for the vocals? About a week of vocals, but it was just boop, 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 everybody, 3-hour sessions every day. Come in every 3 hours, somebody else is showing up to record. We'd comp what they did, send them off, bring someone else in, send them off, bring someone else in, send them off, and then rinse and repeat. But then with the actual music, that was literally 1 day. We only had 1 day with the players in the big room to go in and get all this stuff. So it was fast. It was a really fast-moving day, and much to Terrence and Sarah, the co-composer's chagrin, we were constantly tossing out lines of music that we just didn't have time to record, and we only had 1 day. So
Imagine how much better it could have sounded.
if we had 2 days.
Yeah. Wow. Oh well.
But we think it turned out okay, right? What do you think?
Let's do a couple of questions. Yes.
Why wasn't Darren Smith involved?
It came down to, first off, we're also really good friends with Darren. It came down to time. Terrence and I, this is kind of, I don't know if we've talked about this story before. When I first met Terrence 10 years ago, one of the first meetings we had, I told him, I said, I want to make a movie set in heaven, and about heaven and hell, and this whole kind of dichotomy between the two. And he kind of blew it off at the time and kind of laughed at me. He was like, yeah, that's great, let's talk about Repo now. But it was something that him and I kept talking about throughout the years. And when Repo ended, Terrence and I lived very close to each other, so we would always hang out, go whatever. And it's just something that we continued to talk about over years and years and years. And eventually, when we pulled the trigger, it was not supposed to be, I think, as big as it was. We originally talked about doing this as like a 10-minute little short film that we were going to put on YouTube. And it was like one song or maybe 2 songs in it in total. And I hear them and I said, okay, let's do another song and another song. And next thing we knew, the movie turned into this 55-minute thing with 11 songs in it. It never started out that way. It just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So, but Darren, I mean, again, as you saw in the Repo doc, Darren Smith is a very big part of this community in the Repo world. It's just, again, time frames didn't match up on this one.
Way out back here. Yeah, question. What was the deal with your homies
Saw 2 and what? What? Oh, we kept, you know, this is crazy, but you're not going to believe it. You're sitting down. Daniel's name is actually in multiple things, not just Saw 2, so it blew my mind too. No, you know what, that actually was, you know what's crazy? It even goes further than that. The name Daniel has been in 5 of my movies with kids that have lost their thing. And it's just as random. It's just one of those things, but good. You know what's really embarrassing for me when people talk about Saw? Is I get the movies confused. And I did an interview recently and they were talking to me about Saw 3 and I was like, oh yeah, and Saw 3, bam, bam. I started talking and he kind of like zoned out. He's like, that's Saw 4 you're talking about. And I was like, oh yeah.
Shut up!
I know. But it's funny, my next movie, The Barons, about a father who loses his kid. The kid's name is Daniel, and 11/11, his kid's with Daniel as well. So it's just one of those weird things.
Is that like the goldfish that just like keeps dying, but then your parents replace it? They're
Yes,
like, no, it's fluffy. No, seriously. I know, he totally changed colors. I know he ate a lot, he's a lot fatter, but it's still fluffy.
Same goldfish. Hail Satan? We have time for just a couple more questions. Dan, pick them out.
In a perfect world, if you had enough money, enough time to do it, would you keep doing devil's
First off, one thing I'm going to give another quick shout out tonight. One thing that's been amazing for me about Devil's Carnival is the people that we're allowed to work with. And it's the first time in my career that I can say that everyone we're working with, from every crew member to the people on the road show, are friends. From Stephanie, who's the MC, to Kimmy, who's out there. Her parents are actually in the audience somewhere. Everyone that we've worked with is a friend. I've known Spooky for years, and to have him come on board and work with us, and my wife to work with us, it's been amazing. I want to keep that close-knit community, and I want to keep doing things that I love to do. And this is probably my favorite experience as a filmmaker. And as such, it was always conceived of, Terrence and I, as a series. And to be able to go to work every day and continue to work with those people and make it like my life, I would much rather work as a series. I want to let Terrence, do you want to talk about this and the whole kind of conception of what our plan is?
Well, as Darren said, we wanted to work on another musical project together. And so for a couple of years, we really were bouncing ideas off each other. And how to do it and not just repeat ourselves. So there's several ways I think we did that, and some of them were stylistically, musically speaking. But others was the notion, to me, as a fan movement, having a project where the music grew over a series of episodes. It was kind of exciting to me as an artist and as a fan movement, something I'd want to see if I was sitting in the audience. Original music that continues from episode to episode and grows with the characters, I think is pretty exciting and something I haven't seen done before. So that was the impetus for this, and we hope we get to do more.
But you want to talk for a second about the bigger picture, about, again, how this actually relates to the series and not a feature film?
Well, there's a couple things. One, of course, it's based on Aesop fables, and there's over 600 fables in existence, so there's certainly no shortage of source material. And some of those stories can be told from multiple perspectives. I mean, the Scorpion and the Frog, for example, we're telling this one from the frog's perspective, but clearly you could have a scorpion's version of that same tale. So there's tons of source material. On top of that, there's Heaven and Hell, which is really the bigger arc of the whole thing that we're imagining. And it's sort of the notion of Lucifer, the ultimate rebel, saying, what would be the biggest act of rebellion I can do in the face of my Creator? And that is to offer redemption. Because if we can offer grace in hell, then what use is heaven?
Question.
All right, we got the best one.
Muffins or cupcakes?
I hope that's not the last question.
That's an important question.
That really is. That's an important question.
Okay, Joe. Can I get this?
Whoa! I don't know. I think I'm just going to go ahead and guess that muffins or cupcakes was for me, which is why I cannot answer it. I think I have to leave it to Lucifer. He loves! You know you're big.
Being the ultimate rebel, I'm going to say cookies.
Guys, I want to end the night on two things here. Number one, we only exist and we sink or swim through you guys right now. That's the whole reason we're here. I encourage you that if you guys liked what you saw tonight, even if you didn't like, if you hated what you saw tonight, go home and talk about what you saw tonight. Write blogs about how bad we are. I don't care. What I do care is that you guys aren't silent, because we're here right now because the repo community made a lot of noise, and because of that, we were able to pull this thing off. We want to keep getting bigger, we want to continue to grow, and we need you guys' help to do that. And that is to raise your voices and let people know there is an audience for this type of film, that there is an audience for this type of thing. You guys make enough noise and we're going to keep making them. So that's number one. Lastly, number two, and I'm just going to repeat what I already said before. When you guys leave tonight, when you guys walk out to the lobby, please pick up a soundtrack or a poster. Terrence, Emily, Joe, and I are going to be up here signing all your guys' stuff. Thank you very much. Hail Satan.
Now, before you guys leave, I'm sure many of you would like your hand shaking, your martini shaking, and your baby shaking. However, they're not going to sign anything Repo or Saw because they want to be able to make episode 2. And the way we're going to do that is with you guys by using Devil's Carnival merchandise. Am I right? And if you got a soundtrack, I will gladly take a professional picture of you. I'm so excited to shake your baby's hands. So please give it up one more time for the Devil's Carnival. If you would like to stay for a picture and an autograph, I'm going to have you guys line up right here on the left side. And remember, we're all friends here, so no pushing or shoving or biting.
What just happened? Tell them to come over here. They can. We have plenty of stuff.